What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and we're going to preview the 2024 schedule here for South Carolina. Before we get to 2024, let's look back at the schedule from 2023. Here was the schedule for last season for South Carolina. You can see it's a tough schedule. It's always a tough schedule. So South Carolina and Florida always have really tough schedules because South Carolina plays Clemson, Florida plays Florida State, and both teams are usually not scared to go out and schedule another Power 5 opponent in the non-conference. So they usually play two Power 5 non-conference opponents, or I guess we should say Power 4 now, whatever. But they always play tough schedules, and you can see the schedule really caught up to South Carolina last year. They were only able to win 5 games, not get to a bowl game. But if you just, let's replace North Carolina with an FCS team or a group of 5 team, South Carolina gets to a bowl game. So really the schedule was the reason why they didn't get to a bowl game, and obviously the fact that this team underperformed. But we'll get to this 2024 schedule, and it's not quite as tough in the non-conference. You can see they did not schedule a second power opponent. They do have Clemson, who they play every year, but then other than that, they play Old Dominion, Akron, and Wofford. So that is not a very tough non-conference schedule, and Clemson's really not what they used to be. So that's a game that South Carolina will have a chance to win. So a very manageable non-conference schedule, but I don't know if the SEC did them any favors. We'll get to the home schedule here. Those 3 non-conference games, and they get LSU, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Missouri. So you're talking about 4 teams that are probably in the top half of the SEC, maybe even the top 6 or 7. You get them at home, yes, but they're going to have to win one of these games. I mean, the schedule is really tough. And so, yeah, you've got a really tough schedule here with the home schedule in the SEC. What about the road schedule? Well, again, there's Clemson. They also play at Kentucky. That'll be tough. At Alabama. That'll be really tough. Oklahoma on the road. That'll be really tough. And then Vanderbilt. So this is a brutal, brutal schedule. That's the only good news is you get Vanderbilt. But they have to play them on the road, so you never know. They might slip up in that game. So let's go week by week. They'll start with Old Dominion on August 31st at home, and then it's right into SEC play in week 2 on the road at Kentucky. Then they get LSU on September 14th at home and Akron on the 21st. They get a bye week after Akron, but just looking at those first 4 games, yeah, you've got 2 easier non-conference games, but it's a road game against Kentucky and a home game against LSU. Both games will be very difficult, and it does not get any easier from there. I mean, this schedule, I haven't done my schedule rankings yet. Those will come out later, but this is probably going to be one of the top, I don't know, top 3 or 4 toughest schedules in the country. Once we actually get those rankings out, we'll see. But Ole Miss there on October the 5th at home. That's good news. You get them at home. But then look at this. Back-to-back road games at Alabama on the 12th and then at Oklahoma on the 19th. So back-to-back very difficult games on the road. And again, that's after playing Ole Miss, who could be a top 5 team this year. That is a really tough stretch there. They get a bye week after Oklahoma. That's good news there, but then it's just right back to it. You get Texas A&M on November 2nd. At least that one's at home. Then Vanderbilt on the road on November 9th. Back home for Missouri on the 16th and Wofford on the 23rd. And they close things out on the road at Clemson. So it gets a little easier after that second bye week. Texas A&M at home, that's a game you would think they've got a shot in. They'd probably be underdogs, but they should have a shot in that game, especially playing at home. Vanderbilt's a game where they should be favored. Missouri, maybe they get a shot, have a shot there if Missouri's not as good as they were last year. And then Wofford and Clemson. So that last stretch is not horrible, but I'm telling you, the 3-game stretch from Ole Miss to Oklahoma, that's about as tough as it gets. We're talking about 2 top 8 teams in Ole Miss and Alabama. Oklahoma maybe a top 12, top 15 type team. So a really tough stretch there. And again, they get into SEC play week 2 against Kentucky. So this is overall just a really, really tough schedule. Got to be one of the toughest in the country. It's gonna make it tough for South Carolina again to get to a bowl game. I mean, you look at Old Dominion, you look at Akron, you look at Wofford, those 3 games, and you look at Vanderbilt. And let's say they'll be favored in that game. There's 4 games where they, those are 4 wins I think you can probably get. But then where do you go for a 5th and 6th win? They're going to have to go on the road and beat a Kentucky. They're going to have to upset Missouri or Texas A&M or upset Clemson. This is a really tough schedule, and I think it's going to make it really tough once again for South Carolina to get to a bowl game.